elders and medicine carriers. David's a real McCoy, as I said. He's Choctaw descent and Irish. McCoy, that's more Scott, isn't it? Anyway. And David's lived on the Crow, the Sioux, and the Cheyenne reservations in Montana and Manitoba. David is a novelist. He's written for newspapers, films, and social reform publications. And he is co-creator of the medicine cards, the discovery of power through the ways of animals. Now, these cards, millions of them sold all over the world. People use these cards. You know, now you see all these different kinds of decks of cards and all that kind of stuff. But David was co-creator of the first cards, and people use them. I still use them today. Robin and I are trying to decide whether we should come to Marina Del Rey to get our cards out and say, well, oh yeah, let's go. The weather's going to be great. David's lectured and given animal consultations, medicine card readings to thousands of people worldwide. He's very popular in Europe especially. And he guides people to their own personal truth and healing. David's worked with shamans from Siberia to Hawaii. He's worked with shamans all over the world. Now, David is going to talk about his wide experiences with Native American and medicine animal teachings, spiritual teachings. And then during the weekend, he's going to, well, you'll have a workshop this afternoon. Be right in one of the rooms over here. And as part of your weekend pass, if you decide to go see David, that'd be nice. His workshops are really powerful, and everybody gets in a circle, and he throws the cards on the floor, and then you go from there. So it's a very powerful workshop that he has. And also, David will be giving private readings to people. If you'd like to have a private reading with David, you can sign up out at the front desk, and he'll help you out with that. Anyway, let's see. That's about it, David. I got to... just a few people, what they say about David. Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, says, part Mark Twain, part Carlos Castaneda. David Carson is a born storyteller. His tale is a rich broth of enchantment, wisdom, and holy mischief. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to David Carson.
Yeah, I got that one. Thanks, Cody. I have on a lavalier. Can everybody hear me? I'm wired for sound, I think. I thought, like a lot of native ceremony, I'd start off with a prayer to the animal spirits. Grandfather and grandmother of all spirits, we know that you have given us all that is good, and we acknowledge your love which surrounds us. I call to all the animal powers to be present and to send medicine to protect us, heal us, guide us, and teach us. I ask for the powers of swan so that I may gracefully and peacefully glide through whatever challenges I face. I call to prairie dog power so that I can go deep inside and pay attention to my intuition. I ask for ant medicine so that I cheerfully, enthusiastically, and competently complete the task before me. I ask for eagle medicine so that I can see far, understand and release negative patterns holding me back from self-realization, and so that I may touch with the great mysterious. I ask for spider medicine for catching power to attract to myself the people and situations necessary and important to my continual spiritual growth and development. I ask for moose medicine so that I may learn to love and honor myself more completely, and that I openly and honestly share love with others. I ask for badger medicine so that I may stand my ground and speak up for myself in a timely manner. I call to deer medicine so that I can better understand and share universal love, and so that the gentleness within myself can touch with the gentleness within others. Let me be an instrument of love and peace. I ask for buffalo power so that my way will be cleared to abundance on this earth plane. I ask that my heart remain open and that I receive guidance to wisely share that abundance with others. Bring me wolf medicine so that at the appropriate time I will meet and recognize my inner and outer teachers. I ask for hummingbird medicine so that I can taste the sweet nectars of life and have great joy on the earth. Lastly, I call the coyote, the old yodeler, so that I can laugh at myself and not be overly serious. Grandmother and grandfather of all spirits, I offer my talents and my time and trust to you. Please guide me and help the veil to drop from my eyes so that I may clearly see your pathway. Give me the power, strength, and will to move forward on your road, your good and sweet medicine road. I am yours. Aho. First I wanted to thank some people. Maria, thanks so much. It was beautiful flute playing. And I'd like to thank Robin and Cody for letting me stand up here and maybe make a fool of myself. I'm not sure yet. And I'd like to thank Sean Trujillo, who teaches at the Indian School in Santa Fe, for helping me with these, get this together. Thank you, Sean. So I think that slide is up there because I'm so dear, you know. Can I walk around and if I don't fall down? There's an important medicine story about the deer. And it's the story of the first killing of the deer done by a Choctaw hunter. And the deer, after he was shot with an arrow, fell to the earth, kicking and screaming and eyes filming over, said to the hunter, why have you killed me unjustly? Because of what you've done, I'm going to bring onto the earth the first illness, and that was deer disease. And so I'm also, said the deer, going to give you the cure to this disease. And I'm going to give you a little part of my breath, and you can go and blow your breath upon the sick and heal them. So that's an old medicine story, and I thought I'd talk about that just a bit. If anybody has arthritis. Anybody have that? Let me tell you, I have it. I had a lot of car wrecks and stuff when I was young man. And anyway, one thing you can do, just in your creative imagination, is you can go to the site of the pain, and you can look at that wherever it is with your spiritual eyes opened, and you can imagine a beautiful deer coming and licking the place of your injury in another plane, not this one. And you just see, I have crippling arthritis, but you know, I can get around, and that's probably why. So I thought I would share that little bit of medicine with you. In where I grew up, a lot of sickness was named after animals. Like there was snake sickness, and there was little snake sickness. And sometimes those had to do with the spine. And there was squirrel sickness that had to do with the teeth. And there was, all the animals were analogs for disease. So if you had a certain disease, it would sort of mimic the animal medicines or the animal powers or the animal's behavior. And deer sickness, arthritis, and rheumatism. And you can see how the deer dancers, I don't know if you've ever been privileged to see them, how they dance, you know, in a certain way. So all the animals are analogs for disease. So everyone in the medicine cards, every single one. And so there was a different way of looking at illness and a different way to call power to help you with that illness. And that was animal medicine. And there were a lot of other kinds of disease. There were diseases from spirits, like spirit of the dead, spirit of war. It's a disease we're in right now, I think, as a whole culture. There was knife wing, that was one, which was you know, either non-ordinary or mythological being that created a sickness. And there were many others like that. And then there were also primary diseases, like out of balance with fire. There's campfires. There's several kinds of campfire sickness. So if you didn't pay respect to the elemental powers, that could get you in trouble. So there was dirt sickness, many kinds of dirt, you know, wind sickness and so on, water. I just went back to, my publisher said for Crossing into Medicine Country, they wanted me to go on a tour. So I said, oh, sure, you know, I'll do that. And they said, do you want to, well, why don't you go to Chicago? I said, nah, I don't want to go to Chicago. Well, why don't you come to Manhattan? And, and California, Arizona. I said, no, I don't want to go on a book tour. Well, where do you want to go? I said, well, I want to go back to Oklahoma. That's where I come from, and that's where I want to go. So that's what I did. And I just got back. And a very curious thing happened there. Like in Oklahoma, you know, there's a lot of native tribes. So in Tulsa and in little places you probably never heard of, Ponca City, which is right on a periphery of where the Osage and different tribes are, would come. And I asked my son, who lives there, his name is John, to come and be with me on this. He's a sun dancer. And come and be with me on this little book tour of Oklahoma. So a lot of that, what surprised me is that a lot of native people came. And one woman who was, you know, I'm old, but anyway, she was like very witchy-poo, you know what I mean? Like, and she was Choctaw, and she came up to me and she was like signing to me, you know, saying, and talking to me. And as she was talking, she was signing. And she was talking in Choctaw, kind of, you know, it would go above and below threshold. So I couldn't hear what she was saying. And then she sort of like tapped me and it gave me or slapped me, or, you know, she hit me on the arm, not hard, but it gave me a really strange, curious sensation. And I turned to my son after she left and I said, "What do you think that woman was doing?" And he said, "I think she was slapping the red dog out of you," which used to be my name in Oklahoma. Anyway, I hope you see that there was a whole different kind of medicine going on in Indian country than mainstream medicine. And I think it has a lot to offer people in a certain way. How did you like my slideshow? Okay. Okay, next slide. I just wanted to show you some of the things you can get into if you're me. That's me over there. And this is in Italy. And I was, this lady, Nadia Stepanova, she's from Lake Baikal in Russia and Mongolia. And she asked me to do ceremony with her. And I said, well, sure, okay. And she said, what degree, through an interpreter. She spoke Russian. And so it had to be from her to Italian, translated to English to me. That's how we communicated. She said, what degree of shaman are you? I said, well, you know, I don't know, you know. And she said, well, that's no problem. I'll go look at the spirits. And so, like a lot of people that have this kind of medicine, she sort of goes into a trance and she looks into the sun, looks straight into the sun, and she talks to the spirits of the great warriors around the sun. And she asks them her questions, and that's where she gets her info. So she comes back, you know, a few minutes later, and she says, I've consulted with my spirits, and you're a 5th degree shaman. And I said, well, I know a lot about the 5th, you know. So, anyway, so I did ceremony with her, and she had a big fire, kind of like Native America, only she had these big iron rods, and she put them in the fire at the beginning. I didn't know what she was doing. And then she, like smoke, they do vodka, you know. So I thought, oh man, the world is really strange, you know. That's been a big problem, especially in Oklahoma where I'm from, and with me personally, you know. So she was like blowing vodka you know, and calling her Russian spirits or whatever they Mongolian spirits, horse spirits, and in the different directions. And then the ceremony progressed, and her healing, like, I don't know if you'd call it round, or that's what we'd call it, but the healing part of the ceremony, she went and got those iron rods and she licked on them. And she blew which there's some medicine like that in Oklahoma, similar, but I never saw anything like that in my life. But I have seen, you know, fire ceremony where people are balancing with fire, but I never saw anything like that. So I thought, wow, this woman really does have some amazing power. Anyway, that was that ceremony. So I just put that in there to show what kind of stuff I can do. Okay, this is in Choctaw. This is a story about our creatrix, which was the grasshopper. And in the third or fourth or fifth world, I'm never clear on what world it was. Grasshopper led all the animals from the earth. Think of this. She led all the people from the under earth into the top, you know, into the part of the planet that we live in. So think of what a shift in consciousness. Well, it's predicted, you know, or the Mayan calendar, that this same kind of shift is going to transpire. And it's not too long away, where you can imagine coming out into this world when you've been constricted and all the gifts that this world has. Well, that's the kind of consciousness that, according to prophecy, we're going to experience here in a few years. So anyway, the grasshopper led all the animals and all the beings that we have today from the lower world into this world. And the people got very frightened. Human beings got very frightened. And they said, maybe she'll send us back down there. We don't want to go back down there. This is incredible. The food is good. Everything's good about this world. So they had a big powwow, palaver, and they said, let's kill her. So when dead mother, all the people and animals, when the mother came out, they killed her, beat her with clubs. But before she fell back into the earth, she said, you don't know what you've done. From now on, I will be your mother dead. But before you can ever have any power on this world, you have to come back down to me to learn from me. And that was the mother of the Choctaw people. Oh, and I put that up there because you can't tell a story about a grasshopper without telling a story about the ant, can you? So same deal, you know, third, fourth, fifth world, I'm not sure which one. Down in Mesoamerica, they say we're going into the sixth world. Out in New Mexico, you know, some say we're only going into the fourth world, but that's what I always heard. We're in the fourth world, going into the, like Nadia said, we're going into the fifth, you know. So, you know, one of those worlds, the ants ran, and they were like us. They had great technology. You know, they had ant factories and little televisions and, you know, little ant churches. You know, they lived just kind of like us, you know. And except they went way beyond us, or maybe not so far beyond us. But they got their technology to such a level where every need that they had was met instantly. So this is great, you know, fantastic, for maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years. But then there came a point where the machines fell apart. And by that time, the ants, their brains had atrophied. And so now, today, they say that it takes a shaman to dream to the ants so that they can have power to remember their once great culture and world. And Great Spirit, they say, made the promise to the ant people that if the human beings mess this world up, then they will inherit the earth again. So that's an old story. Okay, you know, I hope nobody goes to sleep on these animal stories, you know. They're kind of like bedtime stories. Lynx, story about Lynx is that he fell asleep on a warm rock after killing a deer, and he went up the Pebbly River, the Milky Way galaxy, looking for the Great Spirit in the night. And it's not clear if this is true or, you know, just a story. But anyway, according to medicine teachings, he went up into the sky looking for the Great Spirit. And he went past the Milky Way to other galaxies. And finally, Lynx found the teepee of the Great Spirit. And without any ado or anything, he just ripped the teepee flat. And he went in to see Great Spirit. And when he did, all the light of the universe hit him. And so they say that Lynx then knew everything. But the problem is he doesn't know how to convey what he knows. And they also say that the lynx pelt is where you keep meteorites, you know, and it's the lynx pelt is a pathway to the Great Spirit, so you can pray with it. So there's a lot of lynx bundles and what have you. So anyway, if you look at a lynx, they have sort of opalescent eyes, and they can see many other worlds. Oh, I was just put that in there to show you. I have that book, Crossing into Medicine Country. I have a little bit about my family and what have you. And this is what I had to put up with a lot when I was little. You know? and all those women would kind of tell me what to do, and that seemed to set the tone for my life, you know. That's my mother right there, Opal. And yes, they were annoying to no end, you know. Okay, here's another thing that I wanted to mention. This was, you know, I grew up in Oklahoma, and my brother, he's dead now, but he was an oil man. And I grew up working in the oil fields, but something about it, I just revolted me, you know, so I turned away from it. But my brother went on and he became the CEO and all that stuff. And so I happened to have been in Russia. And when I was over there, that man there, his name was Vladimir Sanghi. He was the president, or, I don't know what the word is, of all the Siberian tribes. And he's from Sakhalin Island. And so I was telling my brother about it, about Sanghi. And he said, "What, you know him?" I said, "Yeah, he's my buddy." He said, "Well, let's get him over here to the United States. And there's more oil reserves, makes Kuwait look like nothing." I said, "Yeah, I'm sure he'd come." And so I got him to come over. Go ahead and wait back. So they asked him what he wanted to do. And he said, "Well, I want to meet some tribal people. I want to meet the people here." And so my brother took him out to the Osage, which were the most rich tribe in the United States, at least they used to be. I don't know about now, with all the gambling and stuff. But anyway, they were trading stories about their, operations and what have you. And that's the Osage chief right there. And it seemed to me like that Osage chief was saying, "Well, don't trust these white people, don't let them get away with anything, It seemed, that's what I thought he was saying. But they seemed to have their own communication going. And then the other thing was there was all these millionaires and really, rich people wanting to know this guy. And so everywhere he would be driving along and he would see a little lake or stream or something, so he stopped the car. And he'd get out and he'd go to the shore and he'd pray. He'd pray to the fish spirits. And he had this little fish hook and line, and he would catch fish. And he'd clean them right there. And so and with the heads and everything, he threw them in a big pot and cooked them. And he insisted that all these millionaires, eat this food. And I thought, man, these millionaires will do anything for money, And I wanted to tell a little medicine story about one aspect of eagle power. They say that, like all those stories, a long time ago, there was a buffalo, and the buffalo was made out of stone. And it went around trampling and killing, tearing through villages and trampling the people. And so the great warriors would go out and face the buffalo made of stone, but they would get trampled to death. And so that just kept happening over and over, and nobody knew what to do. But then there was a man named Eagle Plume and said, "Let me go face the buffalo made of stone." So he went out, confronted the buffalo, and the buffalo charged him. And just as the buffalo got there, he changed into his medicine, which was eagle plume. So he just wafted in the air until the buffalo tried so many times, the buffalo fell apart and fell down to the earth dead, if it was ever alive. I never could figure out if So that's a medicine story, for our times. And what does it tell us? It tells us there's a lot of buffaloes made of stone. And it tells us to be light of spirit. So these horrible forces that can be on this earth, that we can rise above them and have powerful medicine to deal with it. So that's just one little, there's many, probably thousands of teachings about eagle, but that's just one. And then I wanted to tell another medicine story. Out on the prairie somewhere, I'm not sure where, Nebraska, or there's a little mouse family. And the mouse was just terrified. And it says, you know, the buffalo come migrating through here and frighten us mouse people, and you know, I'm just getting tired of it. I'm not gonna deal with these big buffalo just doing whatever. And he kept talking to himself and pumping himself up. He said, you know, I'm not going to take that from that buffalo. I'm a great warrior mouse. I'm going to go out and I'm going to face the buffalo. So he just kept pumping up, and finally he goes out on the prairie, and here comes the buffalo eating, you know, the grass. And the little mouse squeaked up and said, "Get off my land," you know. And the buffalo just kind of shook his head. I said, "Get off my land." Buffalo just snorted and kept eating grass. And so the mouse charged the buffalo. And he ran up and he ran into his left ear. And he started chewing on his eardrum. And that got the buffalo's attention. He started going around and around, screaming and kicking. And so the mouse comes out and says, "Now admit that I'm the greatest warrior mouse that ever was. And you get off my land and you stay off of it." By this time, the buffalo was furious and charged that little mouse. So this time the mouse went in his other ear, started chewing on it. And after a while, the buffalo fell down dead. And the little mouse gets out, and he's giving a great kind of war squeak, you know, on top of the buffalo. And he yells out, "Bring me a knife. Bring me a knife." Oh, I missed that slide. That was buffalo. And then the next one. And walking down along in the prairie was a fox. And he heard this. And he said, "I wonder who that is, that little squeaky voice saying, 'Bring me a knife.' I better go look." And there was the mouse on top of the buffalo. And the fox was very suspicious. This must be some kind of amazing, you know, power mouse. I have to be Mighty Mouse. And I have to be very careful here what I do. So he goes up and he says to the mouse, I have a knife. And he says, "Well, you know, get busy and dress out this buffalo, and I'll give you some." The fox says, "Well, okay." So he starts dressing out the buffalo, and pretty soon he's, you know, after working in the hot sun, and when he's done, "Okay, I've done my work, and pay me," he says to them. So the mouse says, "Well, you can take a little offal, and you can have a couple of hooves." And the fox says, "What? I worked all day dressing out this buffalo, and you're just going to give... I have a family to support." And he said, "Get on out of here. I'll do what I did to the buffalo to you." And that makes the fox so angry he jumps and eats the mouse. And the moral of the story is, you know, is not be too arrogant, whoever you are. And I wanted to tell this story Snake is a very powerful medicine. It's the most balanced energy on the earth. If you think about it's the medicine of Qigong, that's snake medicine. And it's the ability to focus power. So a little snake can knock down a horse with its power. So this is, and sometimes this medicine is related to water, because they say that the earth there's two snakes, one male and one female, and to pray to those two snakes makes the rain come. And I kind of believe that. So anyway, as the story goes, very long time ago, there was a snake mother and her 7 beautiful children. And like all mothers, she was really proud of her 7 beautiful children. And so she's going around and showing the different animals, her children, like to the deer. Oh, look at the snake mother. Oh, you have such beautiful children. And to different animals would all say to snake mother, oh, your children are beautiful. But then a Choctaw hunter came along and saw the snake mother, and like lightning, like arrows of fire, he shot her little children and tried to shoot her, but she got away. And that Choctaw hunter killed all of Snake Mother's beautiful children. And so Snake Mother was very upset, you can imagine. And she went off and she prayed to Great Spirit. Great Spirit, help me punish these Choctaw people. So Great Spirit heard Snake Mother, came down and said, I'm going to put a couple of poisoned arrows in your mouth. And when you see those Choctaw people, you bite them for what they've done. And so Snake Mother commenced to biting every Choctaw she could find, killing them. And so pretty soon all the elders and holy people were saying, well, what are we going to do? Snake Mother is just destroying our whole people. So they pray and they pray. And finally, Great Spirit comes and says to Snake Mother, from now on, I want you to have a truce with these Choctaw people. And I'm going to put a little rattle on your tail. And before you bite them, I want you to rattle to tell them. And that's the story. There's a lot of people back in Oklahoma, they were called rattle doctors. And that's snake medicine people. They might have a vision or a dream or something that they have snake medicine. And they're very powerful healers. Okay, and then let's see. I think, yeah. Condor, I knew that was Condor, but I didn't. I think I'm winding down here. Anyway, Condor, there's a story about Condor. And a very long time ago, Great Spirit called all the bird tribes and said, I have a difficult job for you bird people, and I want one of you to volunteer for it. Well, I've been in the service, so I know what that means. So the birds kind of knew that too, and they get to fighting, and the hawk said, well, I don't know what Great Spirit wants, but I'm the dog soldier. I'm too important And the eagle said, well, no, I'm the most important, you know, I'm not going to do that. And all the little, like sparrows, oh, we're too little, we can't do the work of Great Spirit. And so finally in 4 days, you know, and all the different birds had an excuse, you know, I'm having too good a time, or, you know. Finally, when Great Spirit comes back after 4 days, said, who's going to do this? Who's going to do this for me? Who's going to do this job? So the condor stepped forward and said, I'll do it. And Great Spirit said, well, just know this. From now on, people are going to fear you because you are going to eat the dead. People are going to be frightened of you. But when you come up to my world, you will be standing next to me. So that's the story of condor. In Choctaw, you know, well, when I was a kid, I learned a death wheel. I don't know, do you want to talk about this? I'm going to talk about it anyway. So it's like, in the East, you know, is the death of an infant. And the South is the death of a child. And the West is the death of an adult. And in the North is the death of an elder. And in the center is the person, self-death. So they taught a lot about death in the old days. They don't do that much anymore. But anyway, that's a condor medicine. That condor keeps that wheel and keeps the balance on the earth of life and death. So I wanted to do a little bit of a poem, and I did. This is a kind of an abbreviated version, but I did this. It's on the Robbie Robertson Native American album. Robbie did it, and I've always been real proud of this song that got on this album. And then I got to narrate a little bit of the Ted Turner documentary, The Native Americans. So I want to play this. These are all crickets, by the way. Nothing else, only crickets. These are all crickets that you hear, slowed down. This was the way of it. Let the story fires be lighted. Let our circle be strong and full of medicine. Hear me. This is my dream song that I am singing for you. This is my power song that has taken me to the edge. This is my talking birth song for a new day. This is rock medicine, the talking tree, the singing water. It is a memory. It is a chant. It is an arrow in flight. It is a medicine story. It is a bead in a story belt. It is what has been forgotten. Listen, I am dancing underneath you. Okay, I thought I'd take a few questions if anybody wants to put me through the third degree or whatever you want to do. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
I noticed that the stories all begin with a human killing. I noticed that all the.
I can hear you.
So maybe repeat.
Yeah, I can repeat.
All the stories begin with a murder of an animal.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what you have to say about that.
You know, I've never really contemplated it. I mean, maybe I just, huh?
The ones that you just spoke about.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, we're losing more and more animals. And probably I picked those stories out because we are. And I probably, so, you know, on some level would like that we keep some of the animal species around if we could, you know, because they are definitely being exterminated. And maybe that's why I picked them. I don't know why I picked them. That's just, you know, I know a lot of stories and that's what came to mind to have this slideshow. Maybe Sean picked them, I'm not sure. No, he didn't, I did. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I know you've told a lot of stories, but
Yeah.
is there, you mentioned the squirrel. Is there a squirrel?
Is there what?
A squirrel story you could share?
Well, I'm a little squirrely sometimes. Well, you know, squirrels taught us, I don't know if I have a story, but one thing is that squirrels taught us, if you're ever, I don't suppose you will be, but if you're ever out in, you know, out in the boonies somewhere and you have to find something to eat, good place to look is with the squirrels. You know, find their larder and then invade it. But there's a teaching, and you know, where I come from, only take, you know, what you need. Don't completely rob the squirrels. And I think, you know, if you look back into time and into history, that was a great teaching. I think everything had a great balance in this land before so many different cultures came here that we don't have, that, you know, people have, I'm not pointing any fingers, but some people really seem to be greedy in our culture, and I think that's way out of balance myself.
Thank you.
But then I wish I could have all that stuff. Yes, ma'am.
I can talk about it. Do you know? Oh, so everybody, okay. The name of this Indian and tribe?
The what?
In the picture, do you know the name of the Indian on the picture and the tribe?
No, but you know what? That's a Cheyenne twisted here, and that means storyteller. And I knew the last, maybe there's more now, because Native America's kind of going back to their culture. But when I knew the last living twisted here, his name was, and he wrote a book, or an anthropologist took his stories, and it was called Cheyenne Memory, and his name was John Stands in Timber. That was the man's name. He was Cheyenne, full blood Cheyenne, and his son Emmett. I don't know if Emmett's alive or dead, but we had a lot of great hunting trips up in the Little Horns and Big Horn Mountains. And I guess I can tell this because it's been so long ago, but we used to go over into the rancher's land, which was totally illegal, and shoot cows. No, I only shoot deer, shoot deer. And yeah, that was John's son, Emmett. He was a powerful man himself, and I've often wondered what happened to him. He lived in Lame Deer, Montana, where I live. Anybody else?
I know that in many of the petroglyphs in the Southwest, there are indications or old stories about communications or dealings with what some of the elders have told me are ETs, extraterrestrials, and that a long time ago, many centuries ago, there was open contact, which I assume is much less now. What do you know stories about this?
Yeah, I do know some stories, but I think they're kind of long, so I probably won't tell them now. But I'll just tell you my belief about that. And I don't want to get to sounding woo-woo or anything, but there's a lot of myth or how we're going into a new world. Well, there's a lot. I think it's in a different prophecy, but that's going to be what helps us, these other life forms that, but we can't even get along with the animals, how are we going to get along with some super being, I don't know. But anyway, that's going to be a problem, I think, for me too. I don't want to, but does that answer your question? Sort of? Well, what else what am I missing? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there's petroglyphs all over that you cannot mistake as being an interface. However, you're not going to get very many native people to speak about it. And my belief is that elders in certain tribal situations can call them, and they'll come. I believe that. As respectable a writer as Frank Waters agreed with that. So anyway, but I'm not in any hurry to make their acquaintance.
Yes. Could you tell us a bit more about the death wheel, please? What is
about the what?
The death wheel and how you work with it. You talked about the death wheel.
Oh, the death beings? Huh? Oh, the death wheel. Well, how many of you have been out, how many of you have ever seen in New Mexico, there's a newspaper called New Mexico Light. Maybe, anyway, it's still being published out there. But there was a lady that came to a seminar. Her name was Jane Bartholomew. And I was teaching this with a Lakota medicine man. He was half Chinese. He was a chi master, and he was a Sundance chief. He comes from the Chips family, which is a prominent medicine family among the Lakota. So Tai Chi and Sundance, I call them Kung Fu. Anyway, he has a web page. It's westshield.com, westshield.com, or no, .org, westshield.org. He's an old buddy. And what was the question?
About the death wheel.
Huh? Oh, the death wheel. Oh no. Am I going? Anyway, we had this seminar there in New Mexico, and it was called, I don't remember, Shamanic Wheel of Death or something. So we were teaching this, and my friend Kung Su, Cam, he loved it. He loved the meditation. You know, I guess they do a lot of that kind of meditation in the East. And he was so into it, and he painted up to look like a you know, the Cherokee Booger Man, or, you know, like, he was just scary beyond belief. So we go around and we do meditations over the day of these different cardinal points on the medicine wheel and that aspect of death. And of course, it was very traumatizing to people. They were crying and sobbing and what have you. And so we're getting to this point where we get to self-death. So I was, you know, doing the meditation, and I looked over, and this woman was truly in a death rattle. And I thought, oh my God, how's this going to look? You know, here we are, two nice guys trying to teach something, and we kill somebody. So I start going really fast, you know, and Cam looks at me, and we both look at her, and so we start going the drum really fast, and you come back, and blah, 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 and we go over and we sort of work on her, and we said, well, what happened to you? And she said, well, I was walking into the light with my grandparents. It was the most beautiful place, and I was so ready to be there, and I suddenly the drums got weird, and I looked back, and there was you and Cam, and I thought, well, how would it look if if I died? So I came back. Anyway, she was in she was from Texas, and she was in a bad relationship, and she went home, and this is what that meditation is for. She went home, she said to her squeeze of many years, that's it, sucker. And she came back to New Mexico, and she started a newspaper called New Mexico Light. And that was Jane Bartholomew was her name. So that, you know, you do that to teach people what's important. You know, I don't want to go into a lot of death imagery and stuff, but but if you know your death, you value your time here on Earth a lot more. And trouble is, you don't figure that out until you start getting up into my age, and then, oh, that's the thing. Oh, I better really enjoy, you know, every minute, every second. So that's what that's about.
We have time for one more question, David.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Please speak into the mic. We're recording you.
What about the belief in the transmigration of souls or reincarnation? How does this come out, or is this dealt with in the native teachings?
The what now?
The transmigration of souls or reincarnation. How do they deal with this, or do they? What do they teach?
Well, sure. You know, there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know what it means, but there's a lot of teachings or myth about, you know, we're dying and we're going up to we're migrating our soul into another dimension, and we go up into the Milky Way, the Pebbly River, and we come to a place where the great eye of the scorpion is. And here's where we make a judgment of how we're going to either reincarnate or move on to other planes. So that's what I've been taught. It's not logical, but it works for me, you know. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for...
Thank you, David. Thank you.